Hi, and welcome to The Innovator, where we take an in-depth look at accountable innovation in higher education with college and university presidents who are committed to student success. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and our guest today is Dallas College Chancellor Justin Lonon. For more than 17 years, Justin has been guiding Dallas College to fulfill its mission of transforming lives and communities through higher education. Chancellor Lonon served as a driving force in the consolidation of the 55-year-old Dallas County Community College District and its 7 colleges into one Dallas College. This historic move helps to meet the needs of Dallas County students by improving both access and workforce opportunities for students. During the conversation today, we mostly discussed inclusive access issues, which is a very important issue currently under consideration at the Department of Education in the negotiated rulemaking process. We hope that after you take a listen to this conversation, that you'll have a better understanding of what inclusive access is and how it impacts students, especially students who need access to higher education. Here's our conversation with Dallas College Chancellor Justin Lonon. Good morning, Justin. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks, Wesley. Appreciate you taking time.
Hey, before we get too far into the substance of today's interview, and we will cover some really interesting things, I've got to start with a very important issue. Who did you pick in your NCAA brackets?
So, here's the thing. Our daughter just graduated from Baylor University last year. So we've been Bear fans for a while. So we're paying close attention to what's happening with Baylor.
Hey, nice. I actually, now that you say that, I can tell you that I picked Baylor to the finals. I think they're a 3 seed. Is that right?
They are. That's right.
And I've seen a little bit of the Baylor Bears this year because I'm a Big 12 guy. I follow the Big 12. So anyway,
you got a good shot.
Greatest time of the year. I love this. Best sporting event of the year.
Absolutely, that's right.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's get into some of the conversation here. Before we get into anything too deeply, tell us about Dallas College. Tell us about who you serve and what your biggest challenges are in serving the students that you serve.
Yeah, no. Again, Wesley, thanks for the opportunity and really appreciate being part of the President's Forum and the work that we do together. Dallas College is, a large, comprehensive community college system that serves all of Dallas County, which is nearly 1,000 square miles here in North Texas. But we really take a regional approach to everything we do. And we start every question with what problem are we trying to solve? As a large institution with about 135,000 students, both credit and non-credit students, they're in a multitude of programs. We are focused heavily on what I call, ultimately Dallas College is in the barrier busting business. We are intently focused on those barriers that get in the way of student success to, through, and beyond our doors. And we know that we offer an amazing instructional product in the classroom that is high quality. It's affordable, $79 a credit hour.
Wow.
But for our students, it's life issues that get in the way. It's not what happens in the classroom oftentimes. And so we have focused heavily on addressing those barriers that get in the way of student success. So if it's transportation, for that $79 a credit hour, you get a free transit pass so we can help remove that barrier. We were the first community college in Texas to partner with the Bezos Foundation to launch the Bezos Academy, to have Montessori and childcare at 2 of our campuses now as we seek to expand that so we can help remove the childcare barrier. We've got a partnership with the YMCA for drop-in childcare at our downtown campus. Parkland Hospital is building a new clinic at one of our campuses to provide access to healthcare, and on and on and on. It's those kind of barriers that we're focusing on to help support students, which also includes our topic today around the cost of textbooks as well. But as an institution with students with so many students, out of that 135,000 students, we also have 30,000 high school students that are dual credit, early college, high school, P-Tech students, as we're trying to smooth out that pipeline from high school to college. But the most important part is, this last This last year, we had 12,500 graduates. They got a degree or certificate from us. 85% of those students were students of color, 71% were female, and over a third were first-generation college students.
Wow.
So we are intently focused on serving our community and busting barriers, and ultimately doing what we can to impact generational poverty and get people into the workforce.
That's really great. That student population. I mean, when you talk about that, it reminds me the President's Forum as an association is a little bit different, and a lot of our students, it's all about access. We serve a lot of adult learners, but you've also got kind of the spectrum at your institution of, you know, the high school pipeline coming in, as well as I'd imagine that you have a lot of adult learners being educated as well.
Well, that is the beauty. You walk into one of our classrooms and what do you see? You will see the 17-year-old high school student that's a dual credit student. You'll see the traditional student who just graduated high school, came straight to us. You'll see the student that started at a university and has come back home to one of our classrooms. You'll see the mid-career student who's trying to retool, retrain, be competitive in the job market and learn some new skills, and on and on and on, to the gray-haired grandmother that's in one of our emeritus courses trying to keep their minds fresh to learn something new. And so that really is our population, is everyone.
That's a great classroom.
Yeah, it is a great classroom. It's a diverse classroom. You know, it's a lot of fun to walk through our halls and to walk into our classrooms and just to see the community, the fabric of the community coming together in different ways, you know, all on their educational path and journey, regardless of where they are in life.
Okay, so I want to talk to you. You mentioned this. We're going to get into a term, inclusive access, that a lot of our viewers won't know a lot about inclusive access. Some may, but I'm going to start at the very basics with this and get your reaction. So, you know, back when I was in higher education and pursuing a bachelor's degree and graduate work, I remember very well the first time I went in, and, you know, tuition's done and you think you're ready, and then you got a list of textbooks that you had to go buy to start the semester or the term, and then when you visit the bookstore, you know, these are in the old days, you'd visit the campus bookstore and you'd start collecting all the books that all of your instructors are telling you, well, you'll need this book, and some are big and thick, and some are paperback, and some are expensive, and a few are like, wow, that one's not very expensive, I like that one. And then by the time you check out, that's an expensive cost to have the materials ready to go to the first day of class to start, you know, learning. Tell me, what is inclusive access? What's the program like, and why is it important for your institution?
Yeah, well, it is a huge topic. It is a huge barrier. Again, when I talk about the barrier busting business, that students always don't have access to their textbooks on day one of class. And so what we did in 2019, we launched what we called our Include Ed program, that includes the cost of learning materials of textbooks, includes in your $79 tuition. And so there's no more of this, do I wait 3 weeks after class already started and I get my paycheck, and do I go buy that chemistry book now that I'm already behind in that class, or do I pay my light bill?
Right.
And we know that those are decisions that students were having to make. And because of our size, we could leverage the cost of the learning materials to save students money. And so, you know, it's about $835 per year that students save on textbook costs because of our Include Ed model, which is about $46 million annually that we are saving students with our Include Ed program. So it is more cost effective for students. And also, they have all their learning materials on day one of class. They are better prepared. They are going to do better starting on day one. And the example that you gave from when you and I were running around the bookstore doing this, okay, sure, you would spend your time trying to find the most affordable option, and great, maybe you find a discount book that I sure hope it has all the pages in it, or whatever artwork someone has put in there, if it's a used book, and so you do that hodgepodge of pulling your books together, so you can do your coursework. We've simplified that. We have simplified it, saved students money, ensure that they're better prepared for what's ahead of them.
And Justin, tell us how you save money. Where does the money savings come from when you are figuring out this issue as opposed to individual students?
Yeah, well, individual students are, wandering around the bookstore, clicking around on the internet, as we just talked about, trying to find those individual books and try to find the cheapest version of those individual books that they can. We are doing that at scale, in a way that, working with our publisher, working with our bookstore, that we're leveraging those costs, just economies of scale. And so, clearly, institution of this size, there's going to be a lot of books that are bought, a lot of learning materials, and so we can get them, at a discounted, cheaper rate rather than an individual onesies and twosies here and there.
Right. Okay. So you're using your scale to negotiate.
That's exactly right.
All right. All right. And so when you go to a seller and say, hey, as opposed to buying one book at a decent price, or getting a used book for on the cheap, and some student can do that, you're saying, hey, we'll buy 14,000 of these textbooks, but your bottom line has to go down, and we need a better deal. And then you're using that to pass on to your students.
That's exactly right. So we're doing that work on behalf of our students. That students aren't having to do those individual, negotiations. We're doing that for thousands of students, and again, so they are benefiting from our ability to do just that. And like I say, it saves them, individually, and then certainly saves the student population collectively, because we can do that sort of negotiation at scale.
And it saves money. We've talked about that, but it also saves time. So if you are a bargain hunter, you don't have to go out anymore and look at different sellers for different books, find a used book here, find a paperback book there, find whatever option. It's just at scale, completed and done for you, and you're going to get the best deal you can get.
That's exactly right. And time is a critical factor in this. Our average age student is about 24 years old. They've got life, work, family that they're trying to balance. They're working multiple jobs, and they're just trying to fit education into life. And so by us helping remove that time barrier as well, that on the front end,
it's a good deal.
Yeah, they on the front end, they know they enroll with us. And again, I'll say $79 a credit hour with all of your learning materials included. So they know on the front end what their cost is going to be. There is no hidden, what's the next thing that I may have to pay for. They can make that decision going in on the front end when they enroll with us. The cost of tuition and the cost of textbooks and the transit pass, those things are included on the front end. And so then they can go worry about the other things in life that they need to be focused on. And then again, ultimately be better prepared when they walk into that classroom.
So there's a conversation that's going on right now in the regulatory world about this particular issue. And there's a a very robust debate over the idea of an opt-in versus an opt-out policy. So the opt-in policy, meaning that students can, if they choose to have the institution do the negotiations, find the best deal, they can opt into it. Or the other policy would be everybody's enrolled in it, and if they choose and they want to go find their deal, they can opt out and then and go search for their own books and find their own deals and see if they can save money on what would normally be charged. Can you tell us what are the implications of either an opt-in or an opt-out policy from your perspective?
Yeah, I think the conversation that's going on right now in the regulatory environment, quite frankly, a change can be detrimental to programs like ours because our students are incredibly price sensitive, and I think that that certainly students recognize the simplicity of our $79 credit hour all in sort of policy. I think they recognize that simplicity,
Right.
but because they're price sensitive, if it becomes some variation of textbooks aren't included, then you got a differentiated tuition. Because they're so price sensitive, they may look at that starting bottom line related to tuition to say, okay, I'm going to save $20 on this. And thinking that they can go then find deals on textbooks that they can save, it is ultimately going to cost them more. Now, it's not to say onesies and twosies, they might find some cheap books here and there, but there's no way that an individual can do what we can do at scale for the magnitude of the whole. And negotiate with the negotiating power that we have on their behalf, that can benefit them from semester to semester. And so, I think this conversation about opt-in, opt-out, while I certainly understand some of the philosophical arguments around it, I think from a practical standpoint, living in the world that we live in, working with the student population that we work with, I think we have a better sense, quite frankly, of what our community needs and how we can best serve our students without the burden of some regulatory change.
Right. One of the things that I want to mention is I feel like, when we're talking about this issue, some opponents of inclusive access characterize intentions with a really broad brush. And from my perspective, our presidents and chancellors are out there doing everything they possibly can to serve their students. That's a President's Forum tenet, which is students come first. Students come before institutions. Students come before faculty. Students come before any other consideration. It's all about the student. And I think that sometimes we start at a premise that is, no, it's not. That's not the case in most institutions, which is kind of a sad state of higher education right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, absolutely. When I talk about our focus of being in the barrier busting business, it is to be student centric. There are costs associated with being student centric. There are financial resources costs to that. When I mentioned the transit cost that's included and with tuition, we don't pass that cost on to students. We subsidize that cost.
Right.
And because we know transportation is an issue and challenge, if we bust a fan belt today on our cars, we're going to go get it fixed and we're going to go on about our day. For our students, if they have a car, first of all, if that happens, then the cascade effect of that, I can't afford to get it fixed, which means I certainly can't get to class. I can't get to work. I can't get my kid to childcare. But if I've got a transit pass that I can get from Dallas College that can continue getting me where I need to go, then it's not just how does that impact them in class, but how does that impact them in
Right.
life? And so we make that investment in students. And so I do think that some in this conversation do paint a broad brush as relates to hidden student fees and other things like that. I make the exact opposite argument, as I said earlier, that students know on the front end what the exact cost is going to be. There's nothing hidden in that. There are no other fees. $79 a credit hour. You pay your tuition. You get that
Period.
pass. You get your books. And so I think it is much more student centric to focus on the front end costs. So they know exactly what they're signing up for, what they're getting
No
into from a
surprises.
financial perspective. That's exactly right. No surprises along the way.
No surprises. This is what it is. I can't say that was the case in my experience in higher ed. Like I said, that was one of the biggest surprises at my first term, my first semester in higher ed, paying tuition, having that figured out, and then finding out, oh, I'm not quite done. There's more that I need to spend to be prepared to go to day one of class.
And I think that is the old, antiquated, dated model. And certainly there may be colleges and universities that are operating on that model where maybe there are some surprises along the way as it relates to fees. So I understand, again, the philosophical argument around it, but I do think the broad brush has the potential to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. And instead of really looking at what programs are working and how are they working and working on to the benefit of students and not to institutions, that quite frankly, that should be the model, because I think that will be the emerging model. When we launched this in 2019, we were one of the first to do it, certainly first community colleges to do it. And so you think about the world in 2019 as we're launching this, then you roll into 2020. And all of a sudden, institutions that had to move to an online environment were scrambling to figure out how do we get physical textbooks to students, and publishers and bookstores trying to figure that out. And here we were going, hey, we're already modeling the way of how to provide access to these learning materials for students that oftentimes come in an e-format if that is their preference. And so, again, I think that this is the wave of the future. This is the model that colleges and universities should increasingly be looking at, and we should be challenging the norm. And so while I appreciate the conversation about how to challenge the norm from the regulatory conversation, I think that the focus is focused on the wrong part instead of the output, which is what we're providing. Is the end goal of supporting students.
Right. Well, we do have our work cut out for us on this issue, and helping people understand inclusive access better, and of course, then directing and helping people understand how they can influence the regulatory process, which we will do and will continue to do. But I would encourage everybody who's listening to this, if this is an issue that is of interest to you, the negotiated rulemaking process that is underway right now, and the potential proposal from the Department of Education on inclusive access that we're watching and waiting for. We don't know exactly what it'll look like, and it still has a process to go through, including public comments. But I would encourage those who are listening to this that are interested in this to be engaged and to make public comments and to have your voice heard in the process.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work of the President's Forum on this. Obviously, there's been a lot of dialogue, and we've engaged and provided comment along the way in this process. But again, yeah, I agree. For everyone that is focused on being student centric, then this is an issue that impacts all of us.
That indeed. Well said. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast today, Justin, and we'll look forward to following this issue closely. Thank you.
Yep. Great to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
My thanks to Chancellor Lonon for joining us today. You can sign up for our newsletter at presidentsforum.org, and please join us for our next episode. We'll discuss innovation that benefits students.